We are on Pesachim Daf Kufay Amid Beis. I
I told
think.
my wife
No,
to
we're on
share
Kufay
that
Amid
night.
Aleph. What?
I told my wife to share
All
that night.
right, we're on Kufay Amid Aleph. My bad. All right. So we are going to start 3 lines down at the end of the line. Another story about a Suda. Here we go. Rav Chanina Bar Shalmia, the Talmidei de Rav. Rav Chanina Bar Shalmia and the students of Rav Havu Yasvi Besuudasa. They were having a Suda. V'koi alayu Rav Hamnuna Saba. And Rav Hamnuna Saba he was serving, he was being mashamish the meal. So Amrulay, they said to him, Zeal, go. Chazi, go see Imakdis Yoima. If it got dark outside, is it Shabbos? And what should we do? Nafsik, we'll stop eating. V'nikba'ei l'shabta, and we'll be kaveh a meal for Shabbos. Sounds like they were holding like Rabbi Yehuda, that if they must have started beheter, so they were eating on Erev Shabbos. It came, they were looking. Want to know is this man now? Then we'll stop eating. We'll oika the suda and we'll bench and we'll bring in a new suda for Shabbos. That's nafsik suda. That's what we want to be mafsik. Should we be mafsik? That's Rashbam says Bakira Shulchan, and we'll start a new suda l'shem Shabbos. That's what That's what they wanted to find out. Amar lehu. So Rav Hamnuna Saba said to them, "Leitzrachisu, you don't need to be mafsik with Akira Shulchan in order to make your suda from Chol to Suda Shabbos. Why? The Shabbos Shabta Kavon Nafsha. Shabbos is Kaveya itself. Shabbos, when Shabbos comes, there's an Isra Achila, and because there's an Isra Achila, because you can't eat before you make kiddush when Shabbos comes, so it's Kaveya Nafsha, and the Suda becomes a Shabbos Suda. Automatically, you don't need Akira Shulchan. And you'll make kiddush. Take a look at the second line, the wide lines in the Rashbam. The Shabbos he cover nafsha. Shabbos is keveya itself. L'suudasa. It's keveya itself for a suda. That means the me'acha shehi oiseres aleinu lechol. Because when Shabbos comes, you're not allowed to eat. Me'ata b'lei kiddush. For once Shabbos comes, you can't eat without making kiddush. Ein lecha hefsek gadol mizeh. So this is a great hefsek. Ume'atzma suuda Shabbos chashiva. Nivdelas mitzvah chol. So automatically the Suda Shabbos is considered separate or different from the Suda Chol. V'dai lochem beprisas mapa v'kiddush. It's enough just to be paris mapa and make kiddush. Now this sounds a little strange. Who is he paskening like? Who is Rav Hamnuna paskening like when he says Shabbos kavas nafsha? Is he saying that you're not allowed to eat? Well, only Rabbi Yehuda holds you're not allowed to eat. Rabbi Yossi holds you're allowed to continue eating. Okay, so Rashbam told us before that Shmuel really holds like Rabbi Yossi. That's the Rashbam said, right? Rashbam held he really holds like Rabbi Yossi that you're allowed to continue, but he was machmir. And he said, you know what? Let's stop early, be paris mapa, and make kiddush. Well, if that's the case, so then what do you mean that it's usher to eat? Why is Rashbam saying that it's usher to eat? There's a bit of a problematic Rashbam. He says, so if he's saying kiddush, it sounds like Rabbi Hamnuna is saying, no, we don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda. We pass in like Shmuel, like Rabbi Yossi, but Shmuel. That says you don't have to do that. You don't have to be mafsik. You don't have to be Eikel Shulchan. Just be Paris Mapa and Makadish. So then why is he saying that there's an Isra Achila? That's my kasha on the Rashbam. I don't have a great answer. The answer I saw from the Dvar Yaakov in the same, I forgot who was quoting. He says that maybe now that we're machmir like Shmuel, now that we're machmir like Shmuel and we're Paris Mapul Mekadesh, so now if that's what we do, so now there becomes an Isra Achila at the time when it comes time to say Kiddush. being that we're machmir like that, right? I mean that would mean I would say it like this: that once we're I don't know, once we're being mafsik to be Paris Mapel Mekadesh, and we want to make Kiddush, so then Kiddush will make an Isra Achila. Maybe something like that. Okay, but that is what Rav Nuna told them. We're not doing like. It's interesting that they wanted to do like Rabbi Yehuda. That's also interesting because we already had a story where we said the Nimlu V'Gamru, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, right? We're not going to pass like Rabbi Yehuda. Why they wanted to do like Rabbi Yehuda? Then maybe they made a mistake. Maybe he's teaching them that we don't do that. We do like Shmuel, Paris Mapel Mekadesh. Okay, now. So back to the Gemara. So he says, "Let's shechu Shabbos kaveh nafsha."
Let's explain something about what Shabbos are saying. Shabbos
Why is the Gemara saying that? What does that mean? Shabbos kaveh nafsha. That Shabbos it could, or we'll see what it could mean. It didn't have to mean all that the Rashbam said in terms of making it an isser. And let's see a little bit further. We'll see where it's coming from. So where does this concept Shabbos kaveh nafsha come from? The Amar Rav said, Kishem Shabbos Kaivas Lemaiser, just like Shabbos makes your eating kavua when it comes to Meiser, Kach Shabbos to Kaivas LeKiddush. So too Shabbos does the same for Kiddush. So what's that halacha? There's a halacha when it comes to tevel. So you're not allowed to eat tevel. Tevel is grain that you didn't take off, or fruits you didn't take off Shumas and Meisers. But if an achilas arai of tevel, like if you're still in the field, it seems like, at least the way Rashbam says it here, that it wasn't nigmar malachtin yet. So then it means you didn't finish the whole process. So then you're allowed to eat it on achilas arai. If you haven't brought it into the house yet, you can eat achilas arai of tevel. You can't have a suda, but you can have you can have a snack. Okay. But let's say you were eating some stuff on Erev Shabbos. You had a suda with some, or you were eating and you were having some snack in the field with some tevel, and then Shabbos comes. Once Shabbos comes, then this is now required. You have to take chumas and maisus from it, and you wouldn't be allowed to eat it. It becomes an achilas keva. Shabbos is keveh, that whatever you're eating now is keva, is kavua, is not a snack anymore. Shabbos turns it, whatever you were doing, it now becomes Shabbosdik. And everything you eat on Shabbos, because the pasuk says v'karos Shabbos oineg, so now everything has chashivas on Shabbos. So even though if you were eating from this stuff on Erev Shabbos, once Shabbos comes, you're not allowed to eat from this without taking off chumas and meisers. That's what it means. Shabbos is kaveh l'maiser. So he said, just like Shabbos is kaveh l'maiser, it's also kaveh for Kiddush. That once Shabbos comes, so now you can't, whatever you're going to do now, meaning the raya we're bringing is that just like Shabbos is kaveh for meiser, turns your achila, even though you're doing an achilas arai, it turns into achilas keva, and therefore now you have to take off shumas and meisers. So too, if you were eating a suda of chayil, once Shabbos comes, the suda automatically becomes a Shabbos suda. That's what he was telling you. You don't have to be oikir your shulchan, you don't have to set a new table. Once Shabbos comes, it automatically becomes a Shabbos Suda without any activity on your part.
Same with the tevel, that's a ride, becomes also.
Just like the teva, your achila becomes a Shabbos achila, which is automatically kava. So to your Suda you're eating becomes a Shabbos Suda.
The tevel, that would otherwise be a ride.
That you can't eat it. You can't eat an achilas keva of tevel. You can only eat an achilas arai of tevel. You can have a snack.
Right.
Well, once Shabbos comes, whatever you're going to eat is not considered a snack anymore, because it's a Shabbos food. It's an enig Shabbos, so it has a din of keva,
Right.
without anything, and therefore now you have to take off shumas and meisus. And therefore you have to take off shumas and meisus from it. Correct. So too, when you're eating a weekday meal without doing anything to make a siman, the Shabbos itself will make this a Shabbos Suda. We're bringing a raya from, just like Shabbos is kaveh le meiser, it's kaveh for Shabbos, for Kiddush. Okay. Okay. Now, Included in that, though, is that there's an Isra Achila before Kiddush. Because Shabbos is Keveya LeKiddush, so now Shabbos, Kiddush, the Isra Achila before Kiddush comes when Shabbos comes. It's usher to be Tayyim before Kiddush, because Shabbos is Keveya for Kiddush. Now,
Based on this photo, what do you need? Like, why do you need Kiddush? If Shabbos happens automatically.
correct. Well, the mitzvah, the Kiddush. It is.
Okay, but the Isser of eating before
Kiddush.
Like, it would seem like, and only if you're in a Suda already does that work, I guess. What we're saying here, that you're already in the Suda, so Shabbos is Kadesh Atzmo.
Well, we're really saying if you're not in a Suda. Meaning this halacha that you can't eat. We pass like Rabbi Yossi. Technically, if you were in a Suda before Shabbos, you can continue eating into Shabbos, right? The fact that we're Paris Ma'avar Mekadesh requires us now to make Kiddush, and maybe there should be an Isser Achila as well. What we're saying now is that Shabbos is Kaveh Kiddush means that if you were in the middle of a Suda and Shabbos comes, it becomes Usser to eat. You're not allowed to eat before, this Isser of eating before Kiddush starts when Shabbos comes.
I thought we were saying that the Kaddish itself.
It is. When Shabbos comes, nothing. You don't have to do anything.
But you still have the Kiddush.
Yeah, that's a mitzvah. You have a mitzvah to make Kiddush. Different the point.
I thought you were saying that when Shabbos comes, it's as if you make Kiddush already.
No. I'm sorry. That was.
Before Shabbos? Not that you should eat before Shabbos.
That's only according to Rabbi Yehuda. We passing like Rabbi Yossi.
But you don't have to stop.
You're not. Yeah, correct. You're allowed to start, and you don't have to stop on Erev Shabbos. But Maisa, we're machmir like Shmuel. So Shmuel requires us to be Paris Mappa when Shabbos comes and to be Makadosh right when Shabbos comes. And possibly now that we have now that we do like Shmuel, so it's possible that you can't even continue eating when Shabbos comes.
Even before that.
No.
You have to stop to make Kiddush.
Before when? Before Shabbos starts?
Before Kiddush.
Correct. Before, yeah. No. You can eat until Shkia.
According to
You can.
Shmuel, if you're making you stop and to make Kiddush, it's already Shabbos, then already the halachas of Shabbos are starting. So part of that is not to eat before Shabbos. Shabbat home for Shabbos, no?
We don't pass it like that. That we pass like Rabbi Yossi. We pass like Rabbi Yossi. That Ikra didn't allow to.
Shmuel doesn't hold that way.
Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yossi too. That you're if you started a Suda on Erev Shabbos, you can continue eating on Shabbos. A Suda. That's Shmuel's machmer and stops by Shkia and to be Paris Mapo and Makadosh. Correct. Now there is another point we're making here is that if you weren't eating, when Shabbos comes, there's an Isser to start eating before Kiddush. If you were not eating, that's an Isser to eat before Kiddush. So that happens when Shabbos comes, and we're saying that is also true when you're mitten lamaisa. It's true even when you're in the middle of a meal now. The halacha is that Shabbos is kaveh la'atzma, and even if you're in the middle of a meal, you have to stop your meal when Shabbos comes to make Kiddush. Now, the Gemara says, well, we thought to say like this. Amar Lahu Rav Amram. So Rav Amram said to them, Hachi Amar Rav. No, I skipped. Savramina. So the Talmidim there thought, Ki hechi the kava lekiddush, just like Shabbos is kaveya, meaning it makes an Isra Achila for Kiddush, kach kava lahavdalah, so too it does the same thing for Havdalah. Which means if you're in the middle of Shalosh Shudas, you would have to stop eating when Shabbos was over, when it came time to make Havdalah. You'd have to stop eating to make Havdalah. The same way on Erev Shabbos, now you have to stop to make Kiddush. So they thought you have to do the same thing for Havdalah. Amul Rav Amram said to them, Hachi Amar Rav says like this, Lekiddush kaivas, v'loy lahavdalah kaivas. Shabbos is kaveya for Kiddush. That tells you that when Shabbos comes, there's an Isra Achila. You can't eat until you make Kiddush, but not for Havdalah, which means if you're in the middle of Shalosh Shudas, you can continue eating as long as you want. Why is that? So the Rashbam says an interesting svara. I think he says exactly correct. There's no mitzvah to make chol. Exactly. Fakir, we want to extend Shabbos. Says the Rashbam, a little more than halfway down towards the end of the line, Havdalah in a kavas. A little more than halfway down in the wide lines, towards the end of the line. Havdalah in a kavas. The kivan shehischil besuda Shabbos mi ba'oidyain. Since you began your suda on during the day, zeu kavod Shabbos. The kavod Shabbos is she geimer sudasai. Finish your suda avla achar shechshach even after it gets dark. And when you finish eating, then you make Havdalah. That is the kavod of Shabbos. Fakir, to finish your meal, not to stop in the middle of the meal. That's what it sounds like. Not so much to extend it, but just don't stop in the middle. Finish your meal. So the whole thing is a Shabbos Suda. Okay. Now, says the Gemara, V'hani mili le'inyan mifsek, d'le mefsekina. This that you're middle of Shalosh Shudas, you don't have to when the time for Havdalah comes, you don't stop. That is exactly precise. You don't stop your meal. The le'inyan mifsek le'mefsekinan, you don't stop the meal that you're middle in. Aval atchule, but to begin le'matchilinan, you're not allowed to begin your meal at that point. And the truth is, so when is that point? So can't make Havdalah till Tzeis, right? Because Shabbos is over. But can you start eating after Shkia? So the halach is as follows: L'chatchila, you're supposed to start Shalosh Shudas before Shkia, and if you start before Shkia, you can continue. If you didn't have Shalosh Shudas, the Mishnah Berurah says, the Berurah says, as long as it's still there's some light outside, you can l'tzarech mitzvah to have Shalosh Shudas, you can still eat a sud have Shalosh Shudas, but you wouldn't be able to have mezainis once it's already dark. Or after Shkia. Okay, so that's l'inyan aval atchule, but to begin, le'matchilin, you won't be able to begin, you'd have to begin before, the beginning needs to be before Shkia. Umipsek nami le'amran elabachila. This that we say that you're allowed to continue eating, that's only when it comes to eating. When you're in the middle of a Suda. Aval b'shtia, if you're drinking, you don't get to continue drinking. If you were having wine or beer or soda or something else, and it wasn't part of your meal, so then once it gets dark, you'd have to stop. And the truth is, shti, the only time you're not you have to stop or you can't start drinking, that's only b'chamer v'shichra. That's with wine and beer. Aval maya less lanba. But if you're just having water, there's no issue. You're allowed to drink water even after Meir, before you make Havdalah. There's no issue in drinking water. The Rashbam points out that dafka for Havdalah, but for Kiddush, you're not allowed to even have water before Kiddush. Says the Gemara, Pliga de Rav Huna. And this is not like Rav Huna. Rav Huna chazi lahu gaver the shosa maya koyim Havdalah. Rav Huna saw somebody who was drinking water before Havdalah, and Amalei, he says to him, are you not scared of the death of Askara, which is some type of strangle? You get strangled, or you can't breathe, or some not great death. The Tana Mishmei de Rabbi Akiva, they said the name of Rabbi Akiva, Kol atoyim klum. Anybody who eats anything kaidim sheyavda before it makes Havdalah, misasei be'askara, he gets that death. So we don't hold like Rabbi. We don't hold like Rabbi. Who was that? Huna. Who was it? Rabbi Akiva, because we hold you're allowed to have water before Havdalah. He would hold not to have anything. Yeah. It's also, I saw a little bit of machlekes. We talk about three liquids here. We got wine, beer, and water. All right. What about other stuff? What about orange juice or apple juice or soda? What? So that exactly. So that's the shadow. The shadow. So one thing I saw is that anything you can't use for Havdalah, you'd be allowed to drink before Havdalah. So that gets into a discussion of what can you use for Havdalah, right? So what constitutes Chamar Medina? So Chamra, wine and Shikra, that's for sure not, right? What about coffee, tea, grape juice, apple juice, and orange juice. Milk, some people hold is Chamar Medina. So what? That for sure Chamar Medina. That calls into Shukra. That's so. Well, he wanted to know about bourbon. You can't. What do you mean? Can you do Havdalah on bourbon? I mean, I've never done it, but I would. Why can't you? I mean, you know.
Only Matzah Kippur.
Yeah. Or Tisha B'Av, Tisha B'Av Shechal Achar Shabbos, That's, yeah, I don't. You could have said Chamar Medina. People, L'chatchila, you're supposed to do yain. You know that. Yain is you're supposed to dafka do wine, not even grape juice. You're supposed to do wine, and you're supposed. That's why you overflow it. You're supposed to be matzi bracha. You want to have. Right, I'm saying people use milk. People use orange juice. If you hold that Chamar, but Lamaisa, it's really the heter is. I think the Rama says it's only on water. The heter before Havdalah is only on water, not even on no other mashka. Okay. What's this inning?
Why is such a tough?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I mean, let's take a look at the Taisus here. He's is an interesting thing. I don't know what it's talking about, but we'll just read it together. If that's well, it could be for other things. I don't know. I'm just saying for water, we're okay with. Maybe it knocks off the whole thing. Now Taisus says Hani Mili. Yeah. So he said, as long as you're eating and drinking originally, then you continue eating and drinking. Mashma, it sounds like it sounds like they were eating before it got dark, like on Shabbos afternoon. The tema. The minig was not to eat between mincha and ma'ariv. There was such a minhag. And it's a shayla if this was every day, or dafka on Shabbos, or dafka on Erev Shabbos. Why? The Gam Rabbeinu Tam Kos or Rabbeinu Meshulam. He got upset at Rabbeinu Meshulam. So I know asked him that. Rabbeinu Meshulam, he got what? No, what do you mean? No, between no, what do you mean? Between Mincha and Ma'ariv, I thought he meant between Daven and Mincha and Ma'ariv. So it's the end of the day. He was upset at him. How could you have such a thing that you're eating between Mincha and Ma'ariv? The Amar b'Medrash, the Medrash says, Hashaisa mayim b'Shabbos, bein hashmashas, one who drinks water on Shabbos. You've heard this before? B'Shabbos. Goizel as karev of hamesim. He's stealing from his kravim that are dead. It's apparently something about the fact that neshamas are allowed to drink then, and if you drink then, you're taking away from what they're able to drink. I don't understand. That's not what it says. The kasav shepam achas ira maisa belustir. It was such a maisa ubali de sakana. It got very dangerous. Ubekushi, and it was hetiru. They went through great lengths to be matir erev Yom Kippurim lechol achar vidui, to allow you to eat, meaning after you daven mincha on erev Yom Kippur, mishum shichrus v'gam Tisha B'Av v'shachal yes b'Shabbos. They also allowed you to eat b'doichik, to eat between mincha and ma'ariv. Not Tisha B'Av. Shachal is b'Shabbos v'nitcha, and it was nitcha to Sunday. Hetir b'koishi. They were matir b'koishi. So this was a very. Rabbeinu Tam does not understand. He had this very strong minhag not to eat ben hashmashos, and if that means always ben hashmashos, or just on Shabbos, or just on Erev Shabbos, or because of this issue they never eat ben hashmashos. But it sounds like even not on Shabbos, because he's talking about Erev Yom Kippur over here. So this is Rabbeinu Tam's thing. And he says, possible the Meiri Hachla Gemara is talking about Sheschilu beheter beemtza seuda hispalu mincha vechad eschilu beheter mutar lahashlam. Maybe we're talking about such a scenario where they started early and then they daven mincha middle of the suda and they were continuing, so you're allowed to continue the suda. But to mamish be kaveya suda between mincha and ma'ariv, that was not acceptable to Rabbeinu Tam. We definitely don't agree. Our minhag is davka to eat between mincha and ma'ariv. I guess like Rabbeinu Meshulam and others, the Rama brings such a day. I think that we rely on that. We do. Okay, but that was going on here. So that's one Indian of drinking between. I saw somebody brought down that it was dafka. This halach was dafka for an aval teich yud beis shana. Maybe he should be machmer for that.
Where do you get that from the Gemara?
But the argument holds like the whole thing's mutter.
Right.
Tais is saying that it doesn't make sense because there's a big problem with this. So I'm telling you how other people learn it. It is definitely a medrash. Like, what do you do with this medrash? Okay. I don't know what the asker bit was that because you were doing something with your throat, so you're being paid back with. Why was it so chumrah? I don't know. I don't know why it was taken. I don't know what the chumrah was. Okay. How are we doing here? 8:31. All right. Exactly more weiter. Bo minei Ravina Rav Nachman Yitzchak. Okay, new sugya. What happens if you didn't make kiddush? Mi shlei kiddush be'erev Shabbos. Erev Shabbos doesn't mean before Shabbos; it means on Leil Shabbos. You didn't make kiddush Friday night. Now, when we talk about the kiddush, we're talking about the bracha of kiddush. You didn't say that bracha on Leil Shabbos. So now, are you allowed mi shlei kiddush be'erev Shabbos? Ma'ushi kaddish v'hoylech kol hayom kulei. Are you allowed to make kiddush on Shabbos morning? That kiddush, Shabbos afternoon. Can you say that kiddush? Okay, that's a good shayla. Amar lei. So he told her that was a shayla again. Ravina answered Rav Nachman Yitzchak. So Rav Nachman Yitzchak answered Ravina mid the Amri. I'll answer from something that was said. Bnei Rebbe Chia mishlei hivdil b'motzei Shabbos ma'adav v'helach kol Shabbos kulei. They say that if you didn't make Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos, you're allowed to make Havdalah the whole next week. The Rashbam says doesn't mean the whole next week. It means Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So if that's the case, so Hakanami. So on Shabbos also, Mishlei Kiddush be'erev Shabbos. If you didn't make Kiddush on Friday night, Mekadosh Roila Kol Yom Kulei, you should be allowed to make Kiddush the whole day. Now, Yesh Lachkar. Okay, if you didn't make Havdalah on Friday night, on Motzei Shabbos, and you're making Havdalah throughout the week, they were saying you're allowed to. Is that working b'teres tashlumin? Meaning, there's a halacha. It's a makeup. The ikar zman, the only zman to say Havdalah is on Motzei Shabbos. Now, if you didn't do it, so there's a halacha of tashlumin, just like if you didn't bring a carbon re'iyah, the oilis re'iyah on the first day of the Chag, so you can be mashlim on the rest of the days of Yontif. There's tashlumin. If you didn't daven ma'ariv, so you missed ma'ariv, so you're allowed to make it up for shachars. Halach of tashlumin. So is that the pshat, or is the pshat that the ikar zman of Havdalah is on Motzei Shabbos? Motzei Shabbos continues until Tuesday. It's not a makeup of Motzei Shabbos. You're just doing Havdalah later, and you could do Havdalah until Tuesday. What's the pshat? What's the nafkamina? The nafkamina says the Rosh. If someone was an oinen on Motzei Shabbos, an oinen is pater from mitzvahs. If he's pater from the mitzvah of Havdalah and the time of Havdalah, so there's no tashlumin. He wouldn't say Havdalah on Sunday because there's nothing to make up. He was pater. If the pshat is that the zman continues, okay, so you're an oinig for the first part of the zman, but now there's now you're not an oinig anymore. It's still Motzei Shabbos, so to speak. So you can make Havdalah. Another nafkamina would be, it seems like, the din of tashlumin, at least when it comes to ma'ariv or to davening, is only if you were a shaygig. If you did it purposely, if you purposely missed ma'ariv, so you're not allowed to make out. There's no din tashlumin for you. So would we say the same thing if a person purposely didn't daven, didn't say Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos? So now he wants to say it on Sunday. We say it's sorry. If it's working within tashlumin, you don't get there's no tashlumin on the makeup. But if it's so much a Shabbos, so to speak, this man continues, so you'd be allowed to. The same shaila would be when it comes to kiddush. Same chakira. is Kiddush, the Zman of Kiddush is Friday night. But you can do a Tashlumin on Shabbos day. Or is the Zman of Kiddush on Shabbos? We do it on Friday night because that's the first time you can do it. But the Zman is really the whole Shabbos. What? Right. That's you're saying that's more likely to say like the second side. You're saying it's more likely that a Shabbos you make it. Why would it have to be a tashlum on a Friday night? The mitzvah is to be mekadosh, say kiddush on Shabbos. So why would you? Well, you know what? It doesn't. Friday night is the first time you do it. Right? Mitzvah Shabbos you can clear. Right? Friday it sounds like on Shabbos it's more like it's Kol Hayom is the day of Shabbos. The fact that it's comparing it to Havdalah would allow us to make such a tushtel. Okay. In fact, the Gemara Eisei. Leile Shabbos or Leile Yom Tif, yesh behen kedusha al hakos, yesh ben haskara bebirchas hamazon. Friday night and Yom Tif night have a halacha. You have to make kiddush on a kos, and they have a halacha. You have to be mazki. You have to do yalav v'yavay or say ritzei and birchas hamazon. Shabbos v'Yom Tif day ein bem kedusha al hakos. They do not have kiddush al hakos. The yesh ben haskara bebirchas hamazon, but you do say yalav v'yavay and ritzei. Now, when it says that there's no ein kedusha ala kais, with Rashbam adds in the second to last line, ki im bay priyagaf levad. There's no kiddush ala kais. We just say bay priyagaf ala kais. Okay, we call it kiddush, but it's not really kiddush. It's just a bay priyagaf. Now, so what's the kasha? The kasha is v'i sakadaitach mishla kiddush be'erev Shabbos b'kash ve'lechol kulai. If you tell me that if a guy didn't make Kiddush on Friday night, he's allowed to make Kiddush on Shabbos day, so then Shabbos Yom Tov Nami Mishkachas Lu, the Yesh Ben Kedusha Ala Kos. Why is this Brisa say that the Shabbos Yom Tov Ein Bem Kedusha? That's not true. Of course they have a Kiddush. If you didn't say Kiddush Friday night, they have Kiddush Shabbos day. So it's mashma that there's no halacha of saying Kiddush on Shabbos day. That's the pashtus of this Brisa. Says the Gemara. The Eli Kiddush me orta. I'm sorry, I read this wrong. I skipped. I thought we were doing something else. One more time. I'll read that again. If someone didn't make Kiddush on Friday night, he's allowed to make Kiddush Shabbos day. They'll also have Kiddush alakas. The Eli Kiddush me orta. If you didn't make Kiddush at night, you'll make Kiddush the next day. So there is Kiddush the next day. Answers the Gemara, Amar Lei. He answers back to him. I guess this is again Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak says back to Ravina, Di'i Laikatani. I'm just not giving what ifs. This isn't a what if. This isn't a what if brisa. The Mishnah is just telling you the halacha, what the regular halacha is. It's not talking about a case of what if. Like I had my fourth grade Rebbe used to say, when he'd say like, okay, so everyone would ask, what about if? What about if this? So he would say, what? And I forgot the line. He would say, let's say. That's everyone would say, let's say like this. Let's say this would happen. So he would say, let's not say. That's the DE right Katani. Then he's not talking about let's says. Okay. In fact, they want another kasha. Eisvei, and ask you another kasha. Covered Yom, the covered Laila. This is interesting. Halacha. Covered Yom means the Yasuda. What are you going to serve at your meal? There's covered Yom and there's covered Laila. So which should you have? What should be a nicer meal? Your Friday night meal or your Shabbos day meal? There's Bam on the bottom says, last line, Im ein layayin harbe lesuda. I mean megadim yanichem adayim. He said, if you have talking about which suda, if you have a lot of wine for both, great. But you can only have a lot of wine at one suda. Or you're only going to have delicacies at one suda. Which one should it be at? Covered yom v'covered laila, says the Brisa, covered yom koidem. Covered yom takes precedence, which is difficult for us because we can only really have like fresh food on Friday night, right? Shabbos day, you're trying to figure out what you can eat.
Usually the start. You start something is more chashuv.
Right. Normally, when you start something, there's more of a chashivas to it. But covered hayom is interesting. Allah covered yom. Kaidim. Right now it's mamish vaker. People's Friday night meals are beautiful. Shabbos day we basically have kiddush and we go home, make kiddush and have some chal and go and try to finish up. But not the halacha. The halacha is covered yom kaidim. Covered yom takes precedence. Vim ainly elakais echad. If a person only has one cup of wine, so what should you do? Omer love kiddush hayoim. No. So it mean the Shabbos, should I save that one cup of wine for Shabbos day? Because covered yom adif. Gemara says no. Kiddush hayoim. You use it for kiddush, meaning Friday night kiddush. Kiddush hayoim kaidim lekavod yom. Because kiddush hayom, making kiddush, takes precedence over your Sudas Yom Tov, your Sudas Shabbos. Kiddush Friday night takes precedence over your Sudas Shabbos.
It doesn't sound like Friday night, though.
I know, but that's what it is.
Rashbam says that's it.
Correct. Kiddush Hayom means the mitzvah of Kiddush Hayom. Rashbam spells it out for you. Correct. Kiddush, Rashbam spells it out. Would read the Rashbam that would point it out. The first Rashbam, Kiddush Halayla shemikachin es Hayom alakois. Balayla, the Kiddush at night, where you're mekadosh the day on a cup at night. That's kodim lekavod yom. That comes before shlayishta isa be'emtza suda. Don't use it for your meal. You should use it for kiddush before your meal. Says the Gemara, the kash is via miisa. But if you're telling me I can make kiddush a whole day, I'm allowed to make kiddush on Shabbos day. So l'shavke ad l'machar. So leave that one cup of wine until tomorrow. Then I can get two. I can get two birds with one stone. I can get a geshmak suda with a kiddush on a cup of wine. So Gemara wants to bring a rye from here that it must be you can only make kiddush Friday night, and if you miss it, you can't make it up Shabbos day. Amar lei, beautiful words. Amar lei. So Nachman told them, "Taviva mitzvah b'shaita." A mitzvah is precious in its time. Let's take a look at the Rashbam, because it seems like this is a din da'iraisa. Chaviva mitzvah b'shaita, first wide line. K'da amar be'elu dvarim, like we say in Parak Elu Dvarim, shaharei hekter chalavim ve'ivarim kisherim kol halayla. You're allowed to burn the fats and the limbs a whole night on the mizbeach. Ve'ein mamtinem lahem b'Shabbos ad shetechshach, but we still put them on to the mizbeach on Shabbos. We don't wait till it gets dark. Shenemar oila Shabbos b'Shabbatay. Wow, mamish. You could just wait a few minutes. You put them on. No, we put them on Shabbos. It's not shit. It's the answer. But because it's oila Shabbos b'Shabbatay, you can do all of the tzrachim of the karbanis on Shabbos. Hilkach. Therefore, he says, Yikadish by Bala. And the reason for that, so we're saying, is because Chaviva mitzvah b'shaita. And you have it's like, I don't know if I don't know if it's different than reason Magdim ala mitzvahs. It sounds like it, because that's not a mitzvah, that's not a deraisa. Chaviva mitzvah b'shaita is that it's chaviv to do a mitzvah in its proper time. And therefore, the Rashbam finishes off, Yikadish hilkach, Yikadish by Balayla, v'layamtim by ad l'machar. Make kiddush on it tonight and do not wait for tomorrow. So that comes out for us that that kiddush hayam takes. It's an important halacha to keep in mind that kiddush hayam kiddush takes. But that means I would also venture to say, if you have a nice bottle of wine, what should you use it for? Do you use it for kiddush or do you use it for your sudas hayam? Even kiddush hayam sounds like using a nice. I'm I don't know if that's. I'm offering perhaps you should use a finer bottle of wine for kiddush. And that would be even if then not saving it for your Suda Shabbos. But then if you have something special for Shabbos, a food to eat or something to drink, should you use it for the night meal or the day meal? Should you use it for the day meal? Because kavod hayom adif. Alrighty. We will Meretz Hashem on Shabbos. We're going to learn out, not tomorrow. Don't learn tomorrow. No Torah Fridays. Meretz Hashem Shabbos. We will learn an hour before Mincha. I don't know what time that is. I didn't have a chance to do this manim yet. We'll do that soon. And then, if that's okay with you, I would like to do Sunday and Monday with the legal holiday on Monday. So if we could do the learn after Shachris, it's like we do on Sunday. If we could do that on Monday, that would be helpful. Okay. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Shabbos will be kavod. Well,
It will do both.